Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his brow as he crouched beside the ancient sealed structure on Kepler 442b. The archaeological expedition had hired him to repair their scanning equipment, not to marvel at alien ruins, but he couldn't help feeling dwarfed by the obsidian monolith that rose before him. Strange glyphs covered its surface, pulsing with a faint bioluminescence that the local xenoarchaeologist insisted was impossible for a tomb sealed 10,000 years ago. "Just finish the recalibration and get out," he muttered to himself, adjusting the sensor array's power coupling. The dust in the excavation site was relentless. Despite the environmental filters, microscopic particles seemed to find their way into every crevice, every breath. Marcus felt the familiar tickle building in his nose, that unmistakable warning that always came too late. The sneeze erupted before he could stop it. A fine mist of saliva and moisture sprayed across the tomb's sealed entrance, droplets catching the alien sun's amber light before spattering against the obsidian surface. Marcus froze, mortified. The lead archaeologist, Dr. Venn, a 7-foot Talquarian with skin like polished jade, would have his head if he'd contaminated the site. But something was wrong. The glyphs weren't just glowing anymore. They were blazing, white-hot light racing across the tomb's surface in geometric patterns that hurt to look at. The ground beneath Marcus's feet began to vibrate, a deep thrumming that resonated in his chest cavity and made his teeth ache. "Oh no, oh no, oh no!" Marcus scrambled backward, nearly tripping over his toolkit. The sealed entrance cracked with a sound like thunder splitting the sky. Not the ancient, weathered fracturing of stone, but something deliberate, purposeful. The obsidian slabs began to retract into the structure's frame with mechanical precision that shouldn't exist in a tomb older than human civilization. Then he heard it, a voice, not through his ears, but directly in his mind, speaking in a language he'd never learned but somehow understood perfectly. Multiple voices actually layered atop each other in harmony and discord. Ancient and young, alien and familiar. "Our king awakes." The archaeological camp erupted into chaos. Dr. Venn came running with half the team, scanners and weapons drawn, shouting commands in 3 different languages. Marcus stood rooted to the spot, unable to tear his eyes from the widening entrance as centuries of trapped air hissed outward, carrying with it the scent of ozone and something else, something that smelled like petrichor after the first rain. A figure emerged from the darkness within. It walked on 2 legs, roughly humanoid in shape, but there the similarities ended. Its body seemed constructed of the same living light that had traced the glyphs, contained within a framework of crystalline bone. Where its face should be, a corona of radiance pulsed in rhythm with the voice still echoing in Marcus's skull. "The catalyst has returned," the voices whispered. "The prophesied blood, the water of awakening. What did you do?" Dr. Venn demanded, her translator struggling to keep pace with her rapid-fire Talquarian. "I sneezed," Marcus protested. "I just sneezed on it." The being turned its radiant face toward him, and Marcus felt his knees nearly buckle under the weight of its attention. Around the excavation site, other tombs, dozens of them that the team had been carefully cataloging for months, began to crack open in sequence, each one releasing similar figures of light and crystal. An elder Talquarian researcher, Professor Keth, pushed through the crowd, his age-worn hands trembling as he consulted a datapad. "The prophecy of the sleeping kings," he breathed. "We thought it was mythology." They were waiting. Waiting for what? Marcus demanded, his voice cracking. "For the kings to return," Professor Keth said, eyes wide with realization. "This species, they died out 10 millennia ago in a great war. But before they fell, their priests made a prophecy. They said their kings would sleep in sealed tombs until the return of their own people, their genetic descendants." "But that's impossible," Dr. Venn interjected. "We've sequenced their DNA from the preserved remains. They're nothing like any known species in the galactic database." The radiant being stepped closer to Marcus, and when it spoke, its voice bypassed the translator entirely, resonating in that same direct mental channel. "You are not our people in form," it said, and Marcus could swear there was wonder in its tone. "But in essence, you carry what we were. Your genetic markers, your biological template, they share our ancient foundation. When your water touched our seal, when your breath carried your living essence to our tomb, the recognition was complete." "You're saying humans are related to you?" Marcus asked incredulously. "Not descendants," the being corrected. "Cousins. Branches from the same ancient root, grown across the galaxy in isolation. We are the kings of the Luminari." We fought the devourer species that sought to sterilize all organic life. We won, but at such cost that only our monarchs could be preserved, waiting in stasis for the day our children, in whatever form they took, would find us again. More figures emerged from the awakening tombs, each one a monument of living light. The archaeological team backed away, uncertain whether they were witnessing first contact or an invasion. But Marcus saw something else in those radiant forms. Recognition, relief, loneliness ending after an eternity of sleep. "How many of you are there?" he asked quietly. "Across this world?" "Millions," the king replied. "Across the 100 worlds where we sealed ourselves? Billions. All waiting for the call that our sacrifice was not in vain. That life flourished, that our genetic cousins survived and thrived and reached for the stars." The being placed what might have been a hand on Marcus's shoulder. He felt warmth, but no physical pressure. "You did not awaken us with ceremony or intention, human mechanic. You awakened us with life itself, with the simple unconscious act of living. And that," the king's voice carried a sound like laughter, "is the most fitting awakening we could have hoped for." As the sun set over Kepler 442b, casting long shadows across a field of opening tombs, Marcus Chen sat on his toolkit and watched ancient kings return to a universe they'd died to protect. He'd come here to fix a sensor array. Instead, he'd sneezed on destiny, and somehow, impossibly, that had been exactly what the universe needed. The kings of the Luminari had awakened, and humanity had just discovered they weren't alone in the family tree of life. Not by a long shot. The galaxy, Marcus thought, had just gotten a lot more interesting. And it had all started with a sneeze.